Was listening to historian and Dr. Elizabeth Boyle on a podcast the other day, and she was advertising her new book. And she made a really good point that we have a myth right now in Ireland that women are equal to men. And she finds it quite funny that people are trying to bring this equality in the medieval era, that our ancestors in Ireland were well ahead of us and so on and so forth. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff within early Irish law which is very good, it's very advanced. But it doesn't make Ireland any better than anyone else, because it literally says in black and white in early Irish law, women are half that of men. Quite literally saying that men are far better and far superior than women. It says that in black and white in early Irish law. It might hurt your feelings to know that, but it doesn't matter, that's facts. Regardless, it still excites me to read that. Not that I am a sexist or anything, it's just that no matter what the situation is, with this massive handicap on women, medieval women throughout all of Europe, because like Ireland is no different, throughout all of Europe, medieval women have this handicap put on them. The handicap of their sex. And still, no matter what, a very interesting story appears throughout all of Europe, where you have all these magnificent women that, no matter what the odds are, manage to work their way up the society. And don't get me wrong, you have noble women who were born in the courts, and they tell a very interesting story as well. But every once in a while you have women like Alice Kettler in Kilkenny, or various other women who worked their way up the property ladder in London, in Kilkenny, in Dublin, various spots all over London, even in Florence, so on and so forth. And it's those stories that I find really interesting. And one place this is very much highlighted in is within divorce, where women are able to divorce one husband to get themselves into a better marriage, and from there, accidents happen and they manage to work themselves out of that marriage and into an even better marriage again, working their way up the ladder. And no matter what the handicap is, they're able to get themselves money, land, and every once in a while, love. Because in the medieval society, people married specifically to have better marriage alliances to survive, by marrying into a better clan or family or house or whatever part of Europe or society you're part of, or to have children, most likely to have children and survive, and most likely even both. But every once in a while you need to divorce for various reasons, most likely politically. And so if you find yourself in medieval Ireland and you're a woman who happens to be looking to divorce, today I want to go over 13 ways you can divorce your husband legally. And this is the most important part of all, get a hold of all the property, lands and money, because that's what you're truly after here. You want to be the winner in the end of the day. You don't want to be that poor woman in the corner and, well, bad things happen with no money, no land, no clan to support you. So I'm going to go through 13 ways you can do that, ways you shouldn't go about divorcing, which will leave you clanless and open to all kinds of evil happening to you, and certain situations where if you love your husband, perhaps, maybe, and you happen to just want a clean divorce where you go away with half of it and he goes away with half of it, that too is possible. So join me today as I will be going through 13 ways you can divorce your husband and claim everything. First and foremost, you can get a divorce if he refuses to get into your bed and then goes off to another woman's bed. Oh, nasty stuff, I tell you that. And imagine saying that in the court. The judges will definitely be on your side for that one. Number 2, believe it or not, you're a woman of status. Take it, if you're a noble girl and you married into this relationship, you need to keep to your noble standards. For example, you need a fancy dress. If your new husband cannot support you in buying that fancy dress, believe it or not, this will actually benefit you when it comes down to the divorce. And this could be one of the reasons why you could be walking away with everything at the end of the day. Believe it or not, your husband has to support you in every way possible. Number 3, if he's going around town giving fake stories about you, false stories, lies. This actually stands up in the courtroom. Number 4, if you have proof, and this should be easy enough because it should be written down, that your husband's gone off and made a satire about you. He's basically paid a poet to go and write dirt about you. Number 5, if your husband has gone off and hired a sorcerer to put a love spell. Basically, if he's used any form of magic or sorcery to enchant you into the marriage, that's it. You can walk away with everything. Number 6, believe it or not, your husband does have the right to hit you. But if he leaves a bruise, that's it. You've got a successful divorce on your hands, believe it or not. Anyway, moving on. Number 7, if your husband fails in his sexual practice in the bedroom, basically if he can't get up, you know what I mean. 8, of course you can divorce your husband if he's impotent. Number 9, if he becomes too fat to be able to have sexual intercourse of any kind. Number 10, if he is leaving your bed at night to go off to other boys. I don't think I have to go into too much detail of what he's getting up to with the other boys, but yeah. Number 11, if you can prove that your husband is the one who is sterile, he's basically the reason why you're not able to have kids, you can keep everything in the marriage. When you're divorcing, that is. Number 12, if he talks about your fetishes outside of the bedroom. Very handy one, if I don't say. Number 13, and an interesting one as well, as it's the unlucky 13. If you find out your husband was secretly in a holy order the whole time and you have evidence to support that. Yeah, finding out your husband is a priest could cause a problem, alright? Remember, if you do not have just cause to divorce your husband and you just walk on out, you'll lose all of your status within society and in your clan. Your clan doesn't have the right to protect you anymore, which leaves you up to being kidnapped, tortured, and even worse. So make sure you follow these 13 reasons before you look to leave your husband for various reasons. Let's say if he's an abuser, or more excitingly, you want to work up the ladder of success, because that's how medieval society worked. And this didn't just happen in Ireland, this happened through all of Europe, where women would find different ways to get out of their various marriages. Now, these laws are unique to Ireland, and that's what makes Ireland exciting during the medieval period. However, in particular, if you have married not in love, but in a political marriage, he also may be looking to leave you as well, and there's 6 ways he could leave the marriage and bring everything with him. Maybe even you were tricked when you were young and innocent and married someone that you thought was in love and he ends up being a jerk. These could be 6 ways he was looking out the whole time to take everything in that marriage. Number 1, unfaithfulness. If he has any evidence that you've been cheating, or he's able to make it out to look like you've been cheating, good luck. You're kicked out of the marriage and he takes everything with him. Number 2, if he has evidence that you've been robbing, either from himself or someone else, it'll make him look bad and he's got good evidence to leave you. Number 3, although abortion is a way of life in early medieval Ireland, and I'll make a separate video on that, if he does have evidence that you committed an abortion on your child, he can leave you, so keep that in mind. Bring in any form of shame to his honour, and if you ever have met a jerk before, honour and his honour price is mostly what they're talking for, and I'll have to cover an entire video on what is honour and honour price later on, because this one is a very interesting one all in itself. Number 5, if he has blatant evidence, because there'll be a dead child on the floor, that you have smothered your child. Bit random, since there's millions of other ways I could imagine that you killed a child. Maybe it was just popular back in that period for women to smother their children. I don't know. It's a pretty dark subject. However, it is interesting nonetheless to see why it's there in the laws. Regardless, and the 6th one, the final one, and I think it's the most unfair one, is if you're without milk through sickness. So basically, if you get too sick that you cannot produce breast milk for your child, he has full rights to leave you. I don't think it's fair, to be honest with you, and these laws are very interesting. And when I do find this even more interesting is when we see examples of women just like Alice Kettler in Kilkenny, who used various ways to work herself up the ladder. Her husband's disappearing. Regardless, you can see why I find this so interesting, and it's not because I'm a sexist or anything. The point I'm trying to say is I actually find reading medieval literature on women who worked their way up really interesting, and it's because they have a handicap on them, you know, and going through that list you can see why they have a handicap on them, but they could still find their ways out of certain situations where they could be with an abusive husband, or they got married for political reasons and now they need to get back up higher, so on and so forth. Regardless, these are very interesting women, and I want to find other women such as Brian Boru's wife and Elizabeth Fitzgerald, women like that worked their way up society's ladder and find themselves even more interesting situations. And I will do that over time, so definitely subscribe to the channel and ring the bell button for later videos that I will be making on these situations, because they are interesting. And if you ever find yourself in a situation like that as well in medieval Ireland, please take this video fully on board, because it may get you out of a certain marriage you do not like. Anyway, regardless, all the best, guys.